Just a heads up, if in half an hour or so we get messages, Zoom was supposed to have waived the 40-minute limit. If I get cut off in the middle of a thing and we're not done yet, just log back on. How many of you were able to get by and pick up books?
I didn't.
I did.
Okay.
I just read the thing online.
Yeah, I'm doing it online as well.
That's fine. That's fine. I hate reading online. I've got that. Has anybody listened to the audiobook? Is that worth listening to or not?
Yeah, that's great too.
I'll probably do that.
Okay. Well, fine. If you haven't read the first chapter, that's okay. All I want to do in the next, I don't know, half hour or so is just kind of give you guys some context for this novel. But first, let's just kind of look at, make sure you've got, where's school? So what we're going to do is we're going to read this novel. We'll take a couple weeks to do it. It's a pretty interesting novel. One of the things I'm going to ask you guys to do sometime between today and tomorrow, no rush, no stress, is I've posted this, hang on a second. I posted this discussion blog. I'm sure you guys have used these before. And I just want to get, after we've talked a bit, I want to get your first impressions of this novel. And I've also got a lot of resources which we're going to be looking at today in a second about Dresden. We got some poetry up there that Vonnegut cites and whatnot. But my first question is, for those of you who hasn't had a chance to read the first chapter yet, all of you have? That's terrific. That's great. Is this a novel? Gemma, what do you think? Is this a novel?
I mean, yeah, I think so.
It's kind of weird, though. He opens up, and you guys can, you know, just I'll read it to you because I know it's hard to pull up your online copy if you don't have a hard copy in hand. But he starts off even before, this is on the title page, which I don't know if is on because there's a few different editions down at the school. But yeah, the Slaughterhouse-Five, or the Children's Crusade, A Duty Dance with Death by Kurt Vonnegut. Then we get this stuff, you know, fourth generation German American, now living in easy circumstances on Cape Cod and smoking too much. Who was an American infantry scout, oars to combat, as a prisoner of war, witnessed the firebombing of Dresden, Germany, the Florence of the Elbe, a long time ago, and survived to tell the tale. This novel is somewhat in the telegraphic, schizophrenic manner of Tales of the Planet Tralfamadore, where the flying saucers come from. Peace. So, what is Dresden? What do you guys know about Dresden? Claire, what do you know about Dresden?
Not much from more than what we read.
Okay, yeah, just what he talks about. Mariam, ever heard of Dresden? Yeah, your audio is very quiet, but that's okay. Dresden, the bombing of Dresden happened toward the end of World War II. And Dresden was known throughout long before the war. I mean, Vonnegut compares it to Florence on the Elbe. Has anybody ever been to Florence?
Nope.
One of you? No? Sean? Okay. I love Florence. Florence is this incredibly beautiful Italian city, known for its art, the Sistine Chapel, the Uffizi Gallery and whatnot. Dresden was very much like this. It's a town that, let me show you some pictures of it here. Dresden is, let me go actually here. Let me go to, can you guys all see this?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is just all, I'll just play it while I talk over it. These are just some, here, I'll turn the sound down. But Dresden was this incredibly beautiful city. My mom has some, that she inherited from her mom or grandmother or something, has what's called Dresden china. And it's this really fine rice china. It's very beautiful, very delicate. And Dresden was known as an artistic, cultural center, not just of Germany, but of all of Europe. Really beautiful place. There were no, whoever's talking in the background, you want to mute your, who's chatting in the background? You want to, Sean, do you want to mute your audio? Thanks. But anyway, so Dresden was this gorgeous city, even throughout World War II. It was kind of understood between the Allies and the German, Japanese. It was understood as this cultural artifact. It was an entirely civilian city. There was very, very few military operations going there. There weren't military manufacturing sites. It was, pretty much, and it remained pretty much unscathed throughout the war. But then, at the end of the war, I don't know if you guys have studied World War II yet in history, but toward the end of the war, once Hitler had shot himself in the bunker, Germany was under siege on all sides, and essentially it was the U.S. troops like Kurt Vonnegut, although Kurt Vonnegut was actually a prisoner of war, and he was sent to Dresden because Dresden was considered a safe zone, this beautiful city that there was kind of an agreement that it would escape bombing, that we would preserve the cultural and artistic heritage of the city. And so, Vonnegut's there, and this is why the weird autobiographical first chapter, which that's why, Jem, I was thinking, does this really sound like a novel? But this beautiful city had, 4 years, well, actually 6 years of war. It escaped any damage, any significant, there weren't military incursions or anything. And again, it was understood that Dresden was not a military target. But as the Russians, who then were our allies, at the very end of the war, as they approached Berlin, there was kind of a race between the U.S. and the French and the British and the Russians, on the other hand, to see who could get to Berlin first, because Berlin was the center of the war machine. Berlin was where Hitler's bunker was. I'm going to shut this off. Berlin was where Hitler's bunker was, and oops, hang on. Let me just stop share here. And so there was, there's no military value, but as the U.S. and Britain, it was actually Churchill who approved the bombing of Dresden, as they saw the Russians that they were going to get to Berlin first, they started worrying, how can we prove to the Russians? Because even though they're our allies, they're already thinking of post-war Europe, post-war globe. And is Russia going to be another antagonist? And so a lot of people today feel that the bombing of Dresden was essentially a war crime. It was totally unwarranted. And yet at the time, let me show you this video real quickly. At the time, they were thinking that, hang on, let's go back, let's minimize this. Whoops, hang on, sorry. How can I get back? I'm gonna stop sharing. I have to close this out. 1 second, guys, sorry. Okay, shoot. Anyway, I've got this, where can I find it? Is this, no, that's not it. I thought I had this all set up, I'm sorry. There's no way that I can get out of here. Escape, there we go. Hang on. So this was the Allies. The Allies felt that, when the bombing occurred, and actually Germany, in the very, very last days and weeks of the war, made huge propaganda issue out of the bombing of Dresden. But the Allies presented it as, oh, well, Hitler, who a lot of people didn't know was already dead in his bunker, that Hitler's going to move the center of operations from Berlin, which is virtually under siege by the Russians, to Dresden. And so the magnitude of the bombing was just phenomenal. And we'll watch this for just a sec.
RAF heavy bombers assist Marshal Konev's drive into the Reich. The target is Dresden.
Can you guys all hear this?
Used to pump German troops into counterattacks against
Yeah.
not many miles to the east.
Yeah.
Put a stop to that.
Mm-hmm.
The night sky is pitted with aircraft, varicolored target markers, and the newest German attack device, a scarecrow designed to burst and look like a plane exploding after a direct hit. Static electrical discharge caused by intense cold mars these magnificent bombing shots.
And again, Vonnegut lived through this.
The day after the RAF strike at Dresden, B-17 bombers of the 8th United States Air Force gave the city a repeat performance.
So after they bomb the hell out of it once, they go back in and bomb it again with incendiary devices.
After these attacks, the German overseas news agency said, "This city, hitherto almost untouched, has been carpeted by heavy and super heavy high explosives and incendiaries. Dresden is a heap of ruins. It has been smashed to atoms." Before these attacks, Dresden was planned as a substitute capital in place of Berlin. After this, Hitler will have to look for a substitute for the substitute.
So again, hellacious bombing. At one point, I think Vonnegut mentions this in the opening chapter, but the idea was that the bombing of, well, Tokyo as well, but the bombing of Tokyo and Dresden were equally as destructive as either Nagasaki or Hiroshima, where we dropped the atomic bombs. And the devastation, I won't show it to you. There's a link on our Schoology page to a History Channel gallery that shows a lot of the destruction. But again, so this beautiful city, the Florence on the Elbe, that's the river that flows through it, not a military target, in what would be considered a war crime today, was absolutely demolished. And so that's kind of what prompts Vonnegut to write this novel, which again is based, at least in the first chapter we find, is based primarily on his own autobiography. He says at one point, you remember, Shen, that this is an anti-war novel, and his friend asks, is it an anti-war novel? And Vonnegut says, well, yeah, I guess. And do you remember what the friend's response was? You might as well write what? You remember? No? Shen, your mic's off anyway. Where is this? He says this on page 4, if you've got it, or if you got it in front of you. Says, is it an anti-war book? And Vonnegut says, yes, I guess. You know what I say to people when I hear they're writing anti-war books? No. What do you say, Harrison Starr? I say, why don't you write an anti-glacier book instead? Kendall, what does he mean by that?
I literally don't know. I read the first chapter and it was so confusing. Like, I'm not gonna lie. It was hard to read.
What was confusing? What was most confusing about it?
Well, it's just like, why would you start off this kind of book with like your life story, like
Right.
all summarized in one chapter? It's just kind of weird.
Right. Because we think, and this is why I asked Gemma at the outset, we think of a novel as fiction. We think of it as made up. But in fact, he starts off, his first line on page 1 is, all of this happened, more or less. And so again, what he's doing, this is what's called kind of metafiction. Metafiction is fiction that talks about the status of a text being made up or a text being a story. This is going to change, and it's become more confusing, Kendall, in a different way, but we're not going to, Vonnegut's going to kind of disappear from the novel in chapter 2, and he's actually going to, it's actually going to get kind of interesting. And by the way, we're not reading this as an anti-war novel. We're a science fiction class doing this unit on time travel, and the time travel aspect of the book will kick in chapter 2, when Billy Pilgrim, Vonnegut's character, his main protagonist, becomes unstuck in time. So this opening chapter is very weird. I'm kind of, I've always been kind of ambivalent about Vonnegut. He had a big history and reputation. He mentions that he taught at the University of Iowa Writers Workshop. I actually attended there, and I taught there for a year as a teaching writing fellow. And Vonnegut was, everybody knew about Vonnegut. So I like this book, but I do wonder, I'm kind of like Kendall. I'm wondering, why is he telling us about his wife, about his friends? Why is he giving us these silly limericks? But we do find that, I guess, he talks a lot about the writing process, about the process of writing the book, At one point, he says to his publisher, "So here's the book," meaning this book. So the opening chapter doesn't seem to be telling a story, but seems to be telling a story about writing the story. But rest assured, in chapters 2 and 3, we're going to get into the story. It'll be, we'll go off. We'll go to the planet Tralfamador. We'll meet these aliens, their concept of time. Billy Pilgrim, being unstuck in time, is experiencing time in a way that was similar to 12 Monkeys. We've looked at, is time, can you change time? Can you change the future? Well, in Minority Report, or in a film like Back to the Future, we find out that, yeah, you can go back in time, do something differently, and then the future changes. Whereas in 12 Monkeys, James Cole is saying, I can't save you. All I see is dead people. You guys are already dead. There's nothing I can do to change that. So time is fixed. It's deterministic, which is how it was in that article we read, the arrow of time. So this is going to be kind of similarly deterministic. And ultimately, we're not going to write an analytical, Shen disappeared. We're not going to write an analytical essay about this. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to write an essay about time, informed by this novel, the stories we've read, and the films we've seen so far. So I know it's hard to discuss because you're sitting there staring at your computer screen, and I'm talking. Hey, here's Carson. Hey, Carson. Late. That's okay, though. I'm glad you're here. What other questions you have? Claire, you're smiling. What do you think? What do you think of the book so far?
It's okay. I like the lady, the guy's wife, Mary.
Right.
I like
No,
her.
Mary's, okay, actually his friend. Luke, what do you think so far? Boring, interesting? Oh, whoops, sorry, Luke, your mic's off, which is great. But when you talk,
I have not started.
Oh, okay, fine. That's fine. Once you've read the first chapter, Luke, go ahead and respond to that discussion blog.
Yeah, I will.
Hayden, have you had a chance to start it yet or not?
Yeah, I read the first chapter last night. I felt it was odd because it starts off in that autobiographical sense, and then it's about him writing the book, and it's just an odd way to start a book, I think.
Right. Well, again, Vonnegut's an odd writer, but I think you guys are going to enjoy. I think hey, Shen's back. Good. I think you're going to enjoy. The coming chapters. There is a story. It's an interesting story. Again, it is kind of an anti-war book, but we're reading it primarily for when we get to the Tralfamadorians' concept of time. Actually, Billy Pilgrim's going to spend some time in a kind of a zoo on another planet, but we'll get to that. What else can I tell you about it? This is all I really want to do. We don't need to spend the entire block period. Poor Carson's still trying to log on. We don't have to spend the entire block period, but let's just leave it at that. So your job, and I'll give you actually class time to do this. This is what we'll do. After we leave this meeting and close it down, go on to Schoology. Either if you haven't had a chance, Luke, which is fine, to read the first chapter, go ahead and use the balance of class time to read the first chapter. And the rest of you, those of you who have read it, go ahead and log on to the Schoology discussion page. All I'm asking for is like a paragraph, and then respond to 2 other of your classmates' posts. And I'll give you points for that. Part of the reason we're doing this. Any questions on that? Is that pretty clear? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Part of the reason why we're doing this is, as you've heard, and as I said, my video I posted on the overview and stuff, we're supposed to, and we need to be documenting that learning is going on and stuff, so that we can get a waiver. Of course, things change from day to day, hour to hour, so who knows what's going on. But that's it for this class. Let me just touch base. You guys, any questions about school in general? Any concerns you're having? I was hoping that Ms. Kimball was going to log on, but I guess she's not going to.
Well, are we also going to do Zoom meetings for this class on Mondays?
Yes.
Or is it just on Wednesdays? Okay.
This class, here's what I'm hoping, Kendall. I know it's going to take some getting used to, different protocols. If Morgan wants to say something, or Pablo wants to say something, how does he raise his hand? There's actually a way you can virtually raise your hand and stuff. but I want to try to the extent that we can have discussions. I don't want you just to have to stare at the computer screen and listen to me drone on and on. Well, I guess that's kind of what our class is like too. But yeah, so for the next, for next week, what's today? Wednesday? So yeah, Thursday. Okay, here's the way it's working. Have you guys all seen the bell schedule? You have? Anybody not seen the bell schedule? It's posted. It's posted on our Schoology page. But the basic, what you need to know is these block periods doesn't mean you necessarily have to attend class. It's just the expectation is that for us, I know that when 5th period rolls around, you guys are available. Right now, we're going to be meeting, as a class, and we're going to be hopefully talking about, talking about this book. We got the discussion blog as well. I want to hear what Kyle has to say. I want to hear what Mariam thinks. I want to hear what Jake thinks. But we'll also, what I'm doing with my AP classes, because they're revising a draft of a long paper on Angels in America. So I'm just checking in with them for like 10, 15 minutes, and then I'm meeting with them individually. And as this goes on, we'll probably, my hope is, Kendall, next week, we'll actually have kind of classes like this, talking about the book as we read forward into it. And then once you guys start working on papers, we can meet individually to conference on your papers. So, I mean, but yeah, so the expectation is 5th period rolls around, you guys log on. Carson, did you figure out if you look in the bottom left screen of your screen, Carson, there should be a little video, a little camera icon. If you click on that, if it's X'd out, you should pop up. It's fine.
Where is it?
It's on the bottom left. It looks like a video camera on the bottom left of your screen. And anyway, keep working on that, Carson. So, excuse me, just cough, not COVID. How are you guys doing? How are your other classes going? Is it okay?
Yeah, good.
Morgan's not having fun. Okay. Again, these class periods are just times when teachers know that you're available. So in some of your classes, like junior SEM, and I'm sorry we haven't, you may just be expected not to really to sign into a Zoom class or anything, but just during 2nd period, you're working on, whatever test prep it is, or if it's for me doing, college stuff. We'll get together. We'll probably meet like this on Monday. So we won't meet again until Monday, 5th period. Friday, it's no longer office hours. If you got Ms. Kimball's message, it's now going to be 1 through 7. And again, that's a chance. You guys know that I'm going to be here during 5th period. If you want to, email me or send me a message through Schoology, or if you want to log on, if you have some questions about the book or something, and just want to have a one-on-one conference, that's fine too. What else can I tell you? You guys are all healthy. You look healthy, except for Dylan. Isn't it great having dogs? My dogs love the fact that I'm here all day. So, are you guys having fun? I mean, what are you doing for fun? Gemma, what's over?
Nothing.
Okay, our meeting's going to end in 10 minutes here, so that's fine. Yeah, well, you can read a book. I know a good one, Slaughterhouse-Five. So the expectation is that you'll post something on the discussion blog by tomorrow. Read the first 2 chapters. If you want to read ahead, that's fine. No spoilers, though. Read the first 2 chapters for Monday. And that's pretty, hey, Carson, you figured it out. That's great. Yeah, okay. Well, you guys don't look super engaged or super excited.
Woo.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Mariam, how are things in Ridgeway?
They're okay. We're pretty remote.
Right, not as remote as I am. I'm sitting up here. My sister lives across the road. My nephew just got back from Boulder, and my niece just got back from Rhode Island. So they're self-quarantined for 2 weeks. So I just get to shout across the road to my sister. That's pretty much it. Poor Mrs. Lavender is sick of having me around, but well, can't help that. Anyway, it's a cute cat. It's a cute cat.
Yeah.
All righty. Any questions before we go? go ahead and use the rest of our block period to read ahead in chapter 1 if you haven't yet, and then post something on our discussion blog. I'll check those, and I will see you guys again on Monday. Do you want to read more than 2 chapters? If you're bored? Morgan's saying no, but maybe, what, Shannon?
The chapters, I think the chapters are really long.
They are pretty long.
Yeah, they're so long. It took me like half an hour to get through that.
Yeah.
Half an
Like,
hour,
even
that's
longer.
nothing. Okay.
It's a long time.
No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Okay, so first 2 chapters, or I mean, chapter 2, chapter 3 for Monday. And is this going to work out for you guys, this Zoom thing?
Yeah, this works.
Yeah, I think it's fine. This can actually be fun, and maybe we'll get more accustomed to it. Again, I miss seeing you guys in person, but it's fun to at least see you on the screen. Dylan, next time you can wear clothes. Just kidding.
I'll be more naked next time.
All righty, thanks. Anyway, so you're all good. Pablo, you've been quiet. You doing okay? Yeah? All right. All right. All right, guys. Well, go ahead and leave meeting. Working on other stuff. I'll see you guys on Monday. I'm here Friday during 5th period if you need me. All right?
What time are we meeting Monday?
12:41. It's all blocks. So again, Monday and Wednesday are Wednesday blocks. Tuesday and Thursday are Tuesday blocks. And Fridays 1 through 7. So you and I will meet on Mondays and Wednesdays for about this amount of time, half an hour, 40 minutes. You'll have the rest of the block time to do work or read. But we'll meet on Zoom. That's the way we're going to do it. All right? Okay, you guys
All right.
look very happy. Now see, Dylan has discovered the background. All righty. Well, I'm gonna shut this down. You guys be safe, stay healthy, enjoy the book, and I'll talk to you Monday, if not sooner. All right?
Mhm. Yeah.
All righty, let me
Yeah.
stop this. Karina,